In this video, we will show you how to replace your power steering pump pulley on this Honda Civic. This will be located along the passenger side of your engine. Let's get started. On the battery, you'll find that you have a 10mm nut holding the cable in place. Let's loosen this just enough that we can remove the cable from the battery itself. Once you have that off of there, just give it a quick inspection for corrosion, clean it up as necessary. We'll set that aside. Now we can start taking off the belt, but before you do, you want to make sure you take note of that belt routing. So when we go to put the belt back on, it'll be in the exact same route. Now we can make our way over towards the passenger side of the engine. We're going to remove the serpentine belt from along the alternator pulley. Use a 19mm wrench right on this area of the tensioner. We're going to have to apply pressure counterclockwise here, pushing it towards the rear of the vehicle. That will release tension. Now we can take that belt and slide it right out of place. Remove your tool from the area. Let's start removing the wheel. To do that, you want to safely raise and support the vehicle so the wheel is off the ground. Remove all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts, the hubcap, and the wheel. To remove a push clip, just get right underneath the center and pull that out of place. With it in the unlock position, we'll continue on to the outer aspect and just pry that out of place. Give it a quick inspection, and now we can pull this aside. Now that we have that shield out of the way, we have a nice clear view of our power steering pump pulley right down along here. We have the belt making its way right underneath here. Of course, we will be pulling that off of the pulley, but let's pause on that for a second, and we will be looking for our 2 power steering mounting bolts. You'll find that you have one of your bolts right down on the bottom, easy to see. The second one's located directly above it, along the top of the pump. Now looking up in this area, you're going to find that you have 2 of these 12mm headed bolts. We're going for the rearward one. Let's start with that. Can be a little bit difficult getting your socket on there with the ratchet. If you have a hard time getting it through this wheel well, you can also come up through the rear of the subframe. There we are. We'll give that mounting bolt a quick inspection and move along to the lower bolt. Now the next thing we'll do is just take that belt and we'll try to set that aside. Grab this 12mm headed bolt as well. Keep in mind, when you remove this, it's the last thing holding this pump in place. It does still have those hoses connected to it, and we do not want to damage anything. Now the next thing you want to do is carefully try pushing the power steering pump inward. What we need to do is gain access to the mounting nut right in the center here. To remove that center nut, we will be using a 19mm. If when trying to remove this, you find that the pulley does spin, be extremely careful for any pinch points. You don't want to stick your finger in here and then try to loosen it. Just in case it comes circling around, I don't want you to hurt yourself. If you needed to, you could actually carefully put a screwdriver inside this area and make sure that it's pressed up against something so that this cannot spin counterclockwise. Now we can take hold of that pulley. We're going to give it a little wiggle side to side, and it should want to slide right off. There it is, friends. Now with that pulley off of there, you want to pay attention to where the shaft is coming out of the pump. Double check to make sure you don't see any fluid coming out of this area. If you do have fluid coming out of there, you either have to rebuild the pump or replace it. Now we can get ready to install our brand new power steering pump pulley. Make sure you have it in the proper placement. Let's slide this into position onto that power steering pump shaft. Start on your mounting nut. With that started, let's snug it up and then we'll torque it to 47 foot-pounds. Take hold of both of your mounting bolts for the power steering pump. We're going to reach up in here and try to align the power steering pump back into its original mounting position. Start with the lower bolt, it's easier to get to. Now we can make our way up to the top and do the exact same thing. For the top bolt, I'll be coming through the back side of the frame here. This part can be a little bit tricky. We have to try to maneuver the belt around. At the same time, we need to try to align those holes, obviously. You might need to pivot the power steering pump around as needed. Now that I have both of them started in, we can snug them up and then torque them to 16 foot-pounds. If you're using an inch-pound torque wrench, that's approximately 94 inch-pounds. Now we can torque these. Do the same to the top one. With both of those tight, let's take that belt and get it as close to aligned with the pulley as possible. This will make it a little bit easier when we're up at the top. Let's re-secure our plastic panel. Now this part can be a little bit difficult. You're going to have to line up the fender liner with the other panel and that mounting hole, all three at the same time. Continue on with your push clip. We'll press in the outer portion as far as you can, and then lock it in with the center. Now we can do this one. Now we can install our wheel. Hubcap, paying attention to the valve stem hole. And all 5 of our lug nuts. We'll start them on, bottom it out, get the wheel back on the ground, then we'll torque each of these to 80 foot-pounds. With the wheel back on the ground, let's torque these in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Now it's time to put the belt back up and onto the alternator. While we're bringing this up, you're going to notice it's under tension. You want to double check to make sure it's around all the pulleys as close as possible. Then we'll be using our 19mm wrench right down here on the tensioner. We'll be twisting this counterclockwise towards the rear of the vehicle to release tension from the area, and then we can slide the belt over as needed. Let's get our 19mm wrench on here. You can also be using a serpentine belt tool, whatever is best for you. Let's double check to make sure it's on all those pulleys. Assuming that looks good, go ahead and release the tension there. Let's make our way over to the battery. We'll press that negative battery terminal all the way down onto the battery, as far as possible. Use your 10mm and make sure that nut is nice and tight. Double check the cable to make sure it is secured properly to the battery. Okay friends, we've got our car back together. At this point, hop inside the passenger compartment. Start up the vehicle, let it run for approximately 5 seconds and turn it right back off. Make your way back out here and double check the belt to make sure it's sitting on all the pulleys properly. If it's off by even one tooth, you're going to destroy the belt. Aside from that, close the hood and then take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.